Why hello there, Exile. I wanted to share with you what I'm playing for the upcoming Legacy of Phrecia event, Vaal Cold Snap on Architect of Chaos. Now, Vaal Cold Snap does an AoE pulse and places a storm centered on you with a small radius that then expands outward. Essentially, a better version of Righteous Fire. The nice thing about cold dots is that they stack with each other, so you can have one Vaal Cold Snap, a Creeping Frost, and a Vortex per single target. Plus levels of Vaal skill gems applies both to the Vaal skill gem and the original version. Plus 3 level gems, which we get from Architect of Chaos, is about a 50% more damage multiplier on Vaal Cold Snap and Cold Snap. If you're not familiar with Vaal skills, you gain souls from killing monsters or damaging uniques. You then spend those souls to cast the Vaal skill, but you're locked out of gaining souls for a duration. Since these are very powerful skills, normally you can only cast them once. But Architect of Chaos gives us 50% reduced soul use and 80% less soul, which means with some scaling to duration, we can cast it 8 times back to back at max souls. I am using Frostbite and Malevolence, and then a 3-link Cold Snap right now. I made my character in Settler's Necro in a fresh league, which was stupid of me. I thought, oh, I'll just corrupt a bunch of Cold Snaps and I'll get Vaal Cold Snap and it'll be good. But I corrupted 9 of them and I didn't hit a single Vaal Cold Snap, which is pretty darn unlucky because I think it's a 1 in 5. Cold Snap, Control Destruction, Elemental Focus. Now, you still get chill from this because it puts a degen chill zone on the ground with these skills. And that's cool for multiple reasons. One of the reasons that is cool is those stupid proximity bubble guys that you have to deal with sometimes. You don't have to deal with them. So it puts the degen on the ground and they just walk over it and die. Then I'm using for the main skill, Creeping Frost. So I have Creeping Frost, Control Destruction, Elemental Focus, and Arcane Surge Support, just on a lower level. Then I have Frost Blink, which is what I'm using to travel around. Vortex, just on a 1 link, just for a little bit of extra damage. Frost Bomb to give you cold exposure. You'll eventually want to pick up an extra curse and go Elemental Weakness with Frostbite, because you do benefit from more damage if they're lower resist. Tree-wise, no ascendancy whatsoever. And then we just picked up some AoE here, spell AoE here. And we started going for these cold dots. And we got a little bit of cold damage here. If you're having trouble surviving, or you take too many hits, you probably want to grab this recoup right here. But this is essentially my tree, and I'm pretty happy with how this performed. You don't really pick this up because it's only more elemental damage with hits and ailments. Our dots are not ailments. In Act 1, I like to go Frost Bolt, Frost Bomb, and Frost Blink. You get both of those at level 4. Then at level 12, you get Creeping Frost, and you can use Wintertide Brand as well with it for a little bit of extra damage very early on. But this isn't very good because it has low cold damage per second and it has to ramp. See, this base debuff duration is 1 second, and in order for it to go do competitive damage, it really needs to ramp up to at least 10 stages, 15. Look at Creeping Frost damage, 411 base, this is 96 base. And in Act 2, when you go to the right side and complete that quest for the little gem, you get Cold Snap for level 16. Let us talk about the ascendancy that we're going to be using. So this is going to be the last node that we grab here, but it gives us maximum life and maximum energy shield per corrupted item, but we lose some all res, which is fine. We're just going to have to make up that. This is all res, so it's also the chaos res. This node here, 50% increased Vaal skill effect duration. Vaal skills require 50% reduced souls. Now, Cold Snap costs 35. It's going to round up, so it's going to make it cost 18. You'll only still be able to get 1 use and then be 1 off from another use. Now, the nice part about this is you do get 50% duration built in. So Vaal Cold Snap is 4 seconds. It goes to 6 seconds. Everlasting Sacrifice and Shepherds of Soul. Everlasting Sacrifice. When you reach full energy shield, sacrifice all energy shield to gain 5 to all maximum resist for 4 seconds. So you want to make sure that you can go to max energy shield to get this buff rolling. We'll be using Eldritch Battery for this, which puts our energy shield to protect our mana, so it's always going off with the regen. Then Shepherds of Souls, it gives 80% less cost, and then it gives 100% increased soul cost per Vaal skill used in the past 8 seconds, which means you can't just straight spam Vaal skills if you're using this. This is why the 50% on this node is important, because we're going to want our Vaal Cold Snap to be more than 8 seconds, so we don't have this downside and can just spam it, completely ignoring the downside. Then we have Depose Order. This is a really nice node as well. There's also a flask that gives you 10% reduced soul gain duration, so that'd be 60. And this is really nice for any Vaal skills that actually hit and do a bunch of damage, because you're getting just a ton of built-in crit. But this allows you to later go to attack-based build if you want to do that, or any direct damage spell skill. And if you can get this soul gain prevention duration, and you have a skill that starts the soul prevention right away, you can actually get it to where you could just infinitely spam whatever Vaal skill that you want. Then there's Chaos Reigns. This is +3 level of all Vaal skill gems. This affects both the Vaal skill and the original skill on it. So +3 levels, pretty strong, especially for, like I said, on Vaal Cold Snap, that's a 50% more multiplier. Then you have some interesting tech here. Skills cost life instead of mana. Now this isn't reservation here. This is just the cost of it. What this would allow you to do is fully reserve all your mana, and you could do a bunch of cool shenanigans without having to grab blood magic. But I'm still gonna probably grab blood magic when I go that route. And then this one's another really interesting one. Skills reserve life instead of mana, and you get 100% increased life reservation efficiency of skills. Now the interesting thing here is you still have mana, right? It never says you don't have mana. It doesn't take it away. So you still have a mana pool, which is very interesting, because you can go like mind over matter or something with your mana pool and not have that downside. So you could, there's like cool tech that you could do late game. So even if you don't want Vaal Cold Snap later, you'd rather play attack build, you can get that rolling, especially with the ES stacker with Ivory Tower. And this really enables it, because you're getting tons and tons of max life with max energy shield. So it sets up that architect where you're getting really high life and then reserving it all the way down for Ivory Tower, which I'll be using in my later POBs. Okay, let's take a look at the first POB. Now, this is what I hope to be at maybe by the end of day 2 or beginning of day 2. I don't know. We'll see how the league goes. Now, this gear is, it's not very good. It's not very good at all, but it still does okay damage. I would be happy starting tier 16 maps with this. It's enough damage to do it. It'll be a bit of a struggle, but I can push all the way to that. So all we need is some sort of scepter or wand that has +1 cold spell skill gems. Now you could start getting +1 cold spell skill gems really early on in the campaign, like in Act 1. So you just need any wand whatsoever that has it. Easiest way to get this is just alt spam a wand, like a super low level wand, because the mod pool is really low. And then you could just craft some mods on it, make sure it has an open suffix, unlock cold damage multiply over time from Betrayal, and then slap that on. And there you go, got a good enough weapon. Then corrupt it. Shield, +1 level cold spell skill gems. Figure out when that is. Once again, just spam. You could just alt spam for this again. You know, slap some things on it. And then I crafted, this is a Betrayal mod, which would be really nice to have, which is 3000 armor during soul gain prevention. Since we're gonna be for like a minute in soul gain prevention, because we're gonna push to 8 seconds on our Vaal Cold Snap, pretty darn good. Then I'm gonna run probably this Rhyme Gaze if I can get it. I didn't see anybody else using this. It has a 50% cold damage over time multiplier and a level 20 conk effect. So if you corrupt a couple of these to get +2 either AoE or duration, very strong helm. Essentially a 6-link helm, and it gives all your dots 50% cold multiplier. Now this has a downside to it, and that is that 50% reduced energy recharge rate, which makes it much harder to get energy shield. And if we look at Creeping Frost, it costs 156, but the rate we're going to be regenning is 117. So to remedy this on Creeping Frost, I put on Energy Leech, so that I'm getting a little bit more energy shield back from that, thus mitigating the downside of the helm. Cloak of Flame, this is just really good because we have no fizz mitigation and fizz hurts. So we're using this, and since we're going to run a Ruby Flask, and we're going to have that +5 from the energy shield popping off, we're going to be at 85 fire res, so good fizz mitigation from that. Vaal Cold, very, very nice gloves because it gives +5 Vaal gems. This applies to both the Vaal skill and the original skill. And then with the +3, that's +8. And then we have 1, 2, boom, boom. So we're at +10 skills. Yeah, +10. Okay, then I just have a pair of boots with 30% movement speed and some life on them. Good life roll. You are going to want to craft at least a resist. I left all these, or tons of suffixes open here, by the way. You're just going to have to fill in your resist. Make sure that you are capping res. Very, very important to cap res. If I actually put specific res on here, then people will essentially search for the specific item with that specific resist. So I'd rather just not put it on there so that they could figure out that they need to cap res. I don't know. I swear, if I put chop off your arm in this build guide, someone would say, would it be a good idea to chop off my second arm too? Like, come on, think guys. Think guys a little bit. Just 2 amethyst rings so that we have some chaos res. And then we're going to want life on it or some resist. You can kind of go whatever you want and corrupt your rings, honestly. A belt, I like a little bit of life regen. You can maybe go with this unique belt here, but it makes it way more difficult to actually cap. And then if you want damage, you can go with this Coward's Legacy and grab this Pain Attunement node. That's going to increase your damage. But for now, just life regen on other pieces too. Very strong early on because we're lacking on that, especially why you might want to pick up this recoup here, or this is really good here because you can recover 3% of your life on kill. And then you get, yeah, it's going to top you off in every pack. So I probably will grab this, honestly. Oh, just remove bleed flask. We'll want something. Oh, I was running purity of elements as part of this. So we're immune to ailments. So we don't need to worry about being frozen. So I just have granite, ruby, sapphire, and topaz. We can go with like a movement speed flask or something. We don't need to worry about onslaught because we gain onslaught for 20 seconds anytime we're using a Vaal skill from this gloves too. Then I have a 2 passive Enduring Composure. This gains 1 endurance charge every 1 second you've been hit recently. So this gives us basically 4 endurance charges, which is going to help with our mitigation. And then I just went with life and all res. You have 1 jewel slot to do whatever the heck you want with, basically here. All right, I'm gonna in the config just put this and assume that you can get 30 res or 130 res between all your suffixes, because there's a crap load of them. If not, you might have to grab some more jewels, or you might have to grab some all res on the tree or something to cap res. Very important to cap res. Let me activate all the flasks. So now you can see, okay, so we're at 33,000, 11k fizz, 11, 21, assuming that we can get chaos capped or close to it. And then this is without Immortal Call. With Immortal Call, then we're actually at 51, 29, 46, 21. Kind of lower than I'd like, but Immortal Call will basically consume all the endurance charges for the duration. So if you get hit a bunch quickly, it's going to mitigate that, and it's going to increase the duration per endurance charge. We're going to be removing 4 endurance charges. And then while this is on cooldown, we'll then get those endurance charges back. So our main clear skill is of course going to be Vaal Cold Snap. Okay, for Vaal Cold Snap, we have 612 in this current gear, and we have a 8-second duration. Where does this duration come from? Efficacy for 22, 50 from the ascendancy. We get 19 from malevolence, and then we pick up this node right here for 15. And that'll put us above that 8-second so that we can just spam it back to back 8 times. So you let it fill up, and then you have Vaal Cold Snap for about a minute. If you need extra, then you just use Cold Snap, Creeping Frost as needed as well. And then if it's a really hard mob, Then you're going to put down Frostbite and Elemental Weakness and Frostbomb and all that other good stuff. You can automate this on the brand if you want. This damage down here, 1.8 mil. This is the full dot damage, assuming that you have all 4 of them. Ignore this full damage because it's counting all 4 of them. Like if you cast them, you're not going to be able to cast them all. But this dot number is the one to focus on. Also, because we have that skill effect duration, if you look at Cold Snap, it's going to put the degen zone down for a decent amount of time. Same with like vortex and stuff like that. The duration on vortex, which is 400, is going to be like 5 seconds. Creeping frost is going to be 8 seconds. So you just refresh their duration. So you just refresh all the dots, and then you just run around in circles and evade things manually. So very, very easy playstyle for any beginner. Okay, let's look at the dream, kind of. We're very close to the dream. It's not fully min-maxed, but we want to aim for a scepter that's +1 with, of course, cold damage over time, and then we want some good cold damage on it. Wrathpith Globe. This might be super expensive, but in this case, we're stacking the crap out of life using Ivory Tower to convert it into Energy Shield. If I take this out, I could just run this type of shield. Damage is going to go way down, but still okay damage. Ivory Tower. We're of course going to have to corrupt everything. Valkyros, we want +2 skills. We want, of course, +2 skills on this, +2 skills on this helm. You know, all that good stuff as well. Life, Strength Int. And we want some damage over time multi with cold. And then Strength Life, Strength Life. This you could just spam the Strength Essences into, by the way, until you hit a good life roll and then craft. So that shouldn't be too hard to get. An implicit Strength Belt. Now, because we're running Ivory Tower and reserving our life down quite a bit, we need to basically make it so that chaos damage doesn't bypass our energy shield. To do that, what we're going to do is run a permanent coruscating elixir. So we want to run a Brutal Restraint Bala Bala. And that gives us this node. We only have 3 flasks. So that means that we're getting 8 charges. And then on, see, I have 5 nodes here. On 3 of these nodes, we want 10%. That'll give us 10 flash charges. And then we get duration on both of these, which doesn't have that. Maybe I should fix that. But then we'll basically have permanent all 3 flasks. Easy peasy. One really important thing here is this Eternal Youth. So it makes our energy shield recovery life recovery. And we need that because that's our only way of getting life back. And everything is going to cost life. Cluster Jewel, we're going to have the resist problem. So we ideally would want something like this probably. You could go with the cold one instead. You don't have to get 8. You can get 8, 9, 10, whatever you want, but you'll have to cut points somewhere. I would cut one of these jewels out, probably just to drop this whole thing right there, which the damage just go down. Because otherwise I have to be level 100, right? 91 is way more practical for people. So that's what I would cut. I went with an Unnatural Instinct. This is not necessary in any way, shape, or form for the build. So we could just take that out. But this does give us 36 increased area effect, life regen, some cast speed, Watcher's Eye. This would be really nice to get because it's a damage over time multiplier, but also not necessary as well. And then my other jewels, I'm going to want a bunch of ones with life, cold, or damage over time, and probably all res. The spell damage with the shield is good, but we already have so much spell damage from Wrathpith. Look at this, by the way. Look at the breakdown of it. 550, 184 for strength, and 101 for Transfiguration of Soul, which is also why we are running the helmet. That we don't really need any of the Cobalt jewels. If we don't have anything that grabs these, we could just drop these nodes as well. I mean, this is nice because it gives 12 all res, but this is kind of insignificant when our multiplier is all the way up in the thousands. So this would be like the damage one that we'd go for, and this would be like capping res one. That's about all there is to it. But if I can get to somewhere close to this damage, this is pretty okay for farming the feared, and then we're pretty darn tanky. This is without anything. We would need more chaos res, by the way. This is without a mortal call. We enable mortal call. Like, look at our effective health go up. Oh, you know what? I just realized I'm missing something. I'm missing the... Crap. Well, I gotta squeeze this in. I forgot my enduring cry on hit. I gotta put this in somewhere. So for that, then I probably have to drop something. So maybe these 2 AoE notes, because they don't do that much anyways for us. All right. Otherwise, we don't have any form of endurance charges. By the way, frenzy charges, this comes from Cold Snap, Vaal Cold Snap. And then I have all these configs in here. Skills are basically the same for the most part as well, but I'm giving you this POB. You can look through it, but this is where we would transition into, which is pretty solid.